Right, I'm going to be changing the wheel bearings in this 1996 Honda CR80 front wheel. Both wheels need doing, but I'm just going to do a video on how to change bearings on the front wheel. You can hear they don't sound great. I'll try to get this one. And there, I mean, visually, just get it. You can see that is horrendous play. It should be minimal play up and down, so they're wrecked. So I've got the bearings here. I've got front and rears here. I think the fronts are the ones that are both the same. I'll double check that, but it'll be obvious when we get the bearings out. So let's say it's these ones, and right, let's get to it. All right, first things first, I'm going to take the disc off. It's quite good they seem to be coming off. I don't want to speak too soon, but to get the wheel off the axle was really hard. Not off the axle, sorry, you know, to get the axle out the forks. The axle was seized solid, so it's good these are coming out. Looks like they've got some Loctite red, maybe? Probably a bit excessive there. Usually with something that's in this sort of pattern, you undo evenly like you would do up evenly. I haven't checked the disc yet, so we'll probably do that when we're on the bike. Doesn't look too bad. It's quite oily, the back, which the fork seals on the bike are shot, so that's probably what that is. Right, and then we've got this cover. Look at that in there. Filth. Right, I might go ahead and clean this up a little bit. Putting that down, look how much that's improved. Gonna start on this. Might have to bathe some solvents and stuff in there just to get this off. It's just like caked mud, where it's obviously got behind the seal. There's probably some oil and stuff in there as well. It's a bit of a pain getting around all the spokes. All right, we're back. I just went outside and chucked a bit of water on that as well, just to help me clean it out, and used a little soft brush. That's just a plastic brush. I love these mini brushes. They're great for like getting in little jobs like that. Right, on to the next step. Right, I'm going to remove the seals. Let's see if I've got something that we can just rest on the hub. Whoop. There's one. There's two. Right, you can see that. Absolutely caked. And the bearing don't look much better, do they? Now I'm going to tap out the bearing. I don't really know what size punch to go for, so got one of these. There's an inner race thing that we're gonna have to nudge out of the way if we can. think that might pop the centre of that one out, so I'm going to go on the one that feels stronger. Right, as these are really rusty, I'm just going to hit it with a bit of heat. You see I'm using a fine tip on the blowtorch, just so I direct the heat where I want it to go. Let's try that. Voila, that's one out. There's our centre. I mean, that is so rusty and full of crap. See, the bearing might be hot. I mean, that bearing is pretty bad. Not as bad as the other one though, so we'll get that one out now. Gonna go for the fat punch now because we can got a bit more to go with this one. Do you notice when I'm tapping it, I'm doing sort of how you would do up bolts sort of pattern, crisscrossing, so you're not just smashing down on one side, causing the bearing to come out wonky. So these bearings are the same size. That means we did pick the right ones. Just double check that they're the same. I'm going to stick these in the freezer, shrink them down a bit, and then we'll heat it, and that's how we'll get them in. I'm going to go ahead and clean out the center of this hub as well, because it's like absolutely filthy. The actual bearing surface feels pretty good, surprisingly, because these show like uneven wear. Right, so we've got the inner all cleaned up. The actual bearing surface is okay. There's no sort of lip or anything there, which is cool. So nice and clean. The sort of inner race part, the divider part of the bearings, it was in quite bad condition, so I just sort of sanded it up, sprayed it black, because that would offend me. Obviously, there's no paint in the centre. The centre's all good, so that's cool. Right, I'm going to go get the bearings out of the freezer. They've probably been in there for about an hour now. You probably want them in there for a bit longer, but I'm just going to see if I can get this working, because I need this done now. Right, cool. Right, to drive the new bearing in, I'm going to heat the hub. I've then got a copper face mallet, which I'm going to gently tap the bearing in. I've then picked out a socket. In this case, it's the 24mm, which fits the inside diameter of the hub. That will sit on the outside race of the bearing, and we'll use that to tap it in with, well, either the ball paint or the softener. And there's a race in there, well, a risen part where the bearing will be seated. You'll hear the bearing sound change once it hits that, and then that'll be the bearing seated. Flip over. Don't forget to put our centerpiece in. Do the same thing. Usually you put the sort of, you'll see it's got a marking on it. You'll put that outside, but these both have it on both sides. So I'm sure no matter what side really matters. Right, now we've got the bearing flat to the surface. We're just going to tap down on the socket. Can you hear how that's changed sounds? Sounds quite hard now. That's the bearing seated. So what we do is flip it over after we put this in, don't forget that. And repeat the same process. You can see I'm working on a wooden workbench. You want to be doing this if you've got a hub. You don't want to damage these faces. Right, the same thing here. There's a graphic on both sides. There's no outer to this bearing. So I'll quickly heat this up and chuck it in. That one fell straight in. I heated that one up a bit more. Just a couple of taps just to make sure that it's seated. I think we're good. Our tube in the centre is perfect. There we go. I'm going to wait for that to cool down now until I do the seals. Otherwise, you know, possibly could melt the rubber. Right, now I'm going to chuck the seals in. I've just got some bearing grease here. That's the sealed unit, so I'm just going to leave that and not pack it out. Just going to fill the back side of the seal up with grease. Again, I don't know if other people do this, it's just what I do. Just grease the seal. Push it in. Now you've got to be very careful with the seal that you don't break it. Make sure it's seated. It does feel fully seated. Just flipping over, just making sure the surface is clean. And repeat the same on this side. And that seal has gone in lovely. Again, just making sure it's seated. Put a bit of grease just on this outer face. Obviously, this is the side that has the cover on it. So now, it's time to put that back together. Just as I've got grease all over my hands, just going to put a glove on. Ah, you fucking... Probably it's coming out like a fountain. Right. Right, so that's just nipped there.
Nip.
All right, they're nipped. Spec says 20 newton meters. So the torque wrench. Just gonna not go fully straight away. So just nip them up again, and then we'll do the last bit of torque at the end. Right, so this is our torque of 20 newton meters. Right, I'm going to go again because we're not quite there. That one is. That one is. There's only number one. All good. So we've got our torques. Disc is back on. Probably give it one more wipe over with acetone and chuck it back on the bike. Wheel bearings are done. Absolutely no play in those bearings now. It's pretty sad to think this bike has probably got its whole life on those same set of bearings. That half-an-hour job, you know, seems crazy that someone wouldn't do that and potentially ruin the bike, but there we go, they're done. Just noticed the front wheel on spinning, it's got a slight buckle in it. There's a slight buckle in the disc, but I might be able to tweak that back. And we've got a bent spoke. That might pose an issue to what we actually have planned for this bike. Hopefully not. I mean, to be honest, I don't mind riding it, but it's not too safe. So that might be something we have to get sorted out in the future. But bearings are all good. So, win. Hope that helps. Hope you have a vague understanding of how to do that now. Cool. Right, see you on the next one. I've got the rear wheel to do next. Fun.